Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo. Bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jed Lee. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We're beaming out to you and the rest of the world from the lovely neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and absolutely honored that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. We'd be so honored if you could help us grow this mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. And they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Good Pods, CastBox, Player FM, Amazon Music, Audible, YouTube. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. We have an absolutely wonderful show lined up for you today. First up, Ashley Belote. She returns to the show to celebrate her new picture book, Little Red and the Big Bad Fred. And later in the show, Claudia Rueda will be here to celebrate Meet the Smushkins. This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by Trumpet, the Miracle Wolf Pup series. There's a brand new book in the series, and we're so excited to tell you all about it. Trumpet becomes a mom. In this exciting book, Trumpet and Lighthawk, now a bonded pair, start their own family with their very first litter of pups. Families can read together, schools can explore the importance of wolf packs and conservation, and Trumpet fans everywhere can celebrate this milestone in her incredible journey. Grab your copy today. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, select bookstores, and the Wolf Conservation Center, where Trumpet and her family live. Plus, 50% of all profits go right back to supporting the Wolf Conservation Center, with more donated to Lighthawk Conservation Flying. So grab your book today and have a group haul for Trumpet and her family. Get ready, adventure fans. Toby Baxter is back. And I Heart River Home, the fourth thrilling book in the Adventures of Toby Baxter series, written by Tim Wright. 13-year-old Toby dives into his most unexpected quest yet. He's battling trolls, navigating the sandpit of love, and getting stuck with an LOVE compass. But when the girl of his dreams, Rainey, is kidnapped, Toby must summon more courage than ever before. All 4 books in the Adventures of Toby Baxter series have been honored as Reading with Your Kids certified great reads, each packed with fast-paced action, humor, and heart. So grab your copy of I Heart River Home today and join Toby on an unforgettable journey through River Home, where every page is an adventure. I am so excited. I met our guest. The first time we met was at the North Carolina Reading Association, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I went up to her and started to introduce myself. And she says, "Jacqueline, I know all about you and your podcast. I love it." And so I was like, she's like the best. She can come on my show anytime at all. And what a great reason for her to come back. She has a brand new picture book out. It's called Little Red and Big Bad Fred. Please welcome to the show, Ashley Belote. Ashley, how are you?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me back. And I love our origin story. I think about that every time I listen to this podcast. It was a great first meeting.
It really was, because, I sit here and I talk and I see the download stats. And so someone, and I know a lot of the stats are some AI machine getting trained, but it's like, to meet people who've actually listened to the show and they weren't just listening to themselves, it was really a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. I've been a fan for a long time, so I was so excited when I got to come on the first time, and now I'm back and get to talk to you again, so I'm super excited.
Well, I'm real excited. We're going to talk about this a little later on, but I've never had a grand marshal on the show, and we'll that's a tease. Later in the episode, we'll talk a little bit about Ashley as a grand marshal. Mm-hmm. But first, tell me, Big Bad Fred, what's up with this dude? Does he need some medication or something?
Fred needs lots of love. That's all he needs is lots of love. Basically, in this story, we have Little Red Riding Hood, who thinks that the big bad wolf is a dog and tries to keep him for a pet. And of course names him Fred. What else would you name a big wolf/dog other than Fred? It is the perfect name. Mm-hmm. And Fred is a little hesitant about, the dog life that Red is trying to fit him into, but eventually learns that, hey, compared to living outside in the woods alone, the dog life being pampered, not so bad. So yes, he just needs lots of love, and he gets it, fortunately.
Well, that's really cool. I'm going to have to talk to my beautiful wife because she's very upset. We now with technology, we have cameras and, around the house, and it's mostly oh, look, there's a turkey. But the other day she screamed, she called me into the room. She goes, there's a coyote in the driveway. And it just hopped over our fence like it was nothing. And she was very upset. She's like, this is the first time. I go, no, it's the first time we're seeing it. But, I don't know. Maybe that coyote just wanted to come in and have some love.
Could have. I mean, in the book, Little Red sets him up with a really nice bed. He gets a couple snacks, a little blanket, and it's really cold outside. So, I mean, he could have just been looking for a nice little home. I don't know. Maybe you should let him in.
I'll suggest that.
Or not.
And my beautiful wife would say, don't ever let her back on the podcast.
No. Maybe the garage. Maybe transition from the outside to the garage first and see how that goes, and then to the interior of the home.
We'll see. So what was it like kind of rethinking Little Red Riding Hood?
It has always been one of my favorite fairy tales. Like most authors, I grew up loving books and stories, and we used to have a man come to read in our classroom when I was in elementary school, and his name was Mr. Majerzak. And he would come in and he would read us picture books, chapter books, lots of different kinds of stories. And then sometimes he would just make them up. And so he would, we would get a chapter a day if it was a longer book. And if it was a shorter one, we would get the whole story. But I loved the storytelling process. I loved sitting and listening. I loved it when he had a book. And then I also loved it when he didn't have a book sometimes and just kind of off the cuff created something. But he had this way of making everything feel so real. And I always thought it would be amazing to live in a fairy tale. Some of my favorite shows take place in fairy tale worlds. The show called Once Upon a Time is one of my all-time favorite shows. I love that show. And it just makes fairy tales so real. And I knew that when I started playing around with these characters, the initial spark of this inspiration came from a portfolio piece I was making about just a little kid who was walking through the forest. And I was like, oh, I have to have something funny in the background because that's my brand. And I was like, how about if I do a wolf? Because I don't have any wolf characters in my work. And so I had him peeking out from behind a tree. And I was like, oh my gosh, it looks like they're playing hide and seek. And that's kind of where the whole thing started. So my love of fairy tales and then the spark of these new characters came together at the exact right point and created magic, just like Mr. Majerzak used to do for us in school.
Well, hats off to Mr. Majerzak. I don't think schools are as open to having volunteers come in. I did a lot of volunteering in the Boston Public Schools and in the past, and I understand security and everything. But boy, I think that would have brought a lot. Someone like Mr. Majerzak actually made an impression on you, and I'm sure having something for him to look forward to, for him to prepare for, really enhanced his life a whole lot.
Oh, yeah. You could tell he loved it. And he was a retired guy. I don't honestly have any idea what his profession was. at, any point in his life. I don't know anything about him, but we got so excited every time our teacher would say, Mr. Majerzak's going to come in at like 10 o'clock. And we were like, yes, it was the best day. So he did. He made a huge impression on me and my friends. And, I think anytime you can get in there and read to kids, I mean, you don't know who is going to latch on and, really feel inspired by that effort. So I love that you volunteer too. Plus, it's just really fun for adults to hang out with kids sometimes. We need that.
Well, yeah, especially older folks who, like you said, are retired. And boy, there's, especially during the pandemic, if I didn't have this, it would have been a very, very difficult 2 years.
You are not alone there. I know. I was very fortunate. I got to do a lot of virtual visits for schools that were having virtual classes. So I was still able to get that connection, but it was really hard, but it did help. I think that obviously COVID came with a lot of negative things, but a few of the positive things was we learned how much could be accomplished online and how much we could stay connected when we really tried. And I think that was, definitely something that we learned a lot about in those couple of years.
Yeah. You mentioned your brand as an illustrator and as an author. Talk about that. Has your brand, have you been very intentional in growing your brand, or is it just something that you woke up one day and said, oh, almost all my pictures have these goofy things in the background?
I think I have always been my brand. I feel like this has just been my entire life kind of weaving towards this point. I've known that I've wanted to be an author and illustrator since I knew what it was, and began identifying myself as like the art kid in school from a very young age. So I've always been an artist as part of my identity. And I loved funny books. I love comedy movies. I love to laugh. I love to make other people laugh. So it was kind of a natural segue for me to take my art into a funny, humorous place. And I love telling kids a funny story and them cracking up. It is awesome. Oh my gosh, it is the absolute best thing ever when I'm like in front of a huge group of kids at a school visit and I like read a joke in the book that I like cross my fingers every time, like, please get it, please get it. And they just die laughing. And it is so great. Love it. So yeah, I always think it's funny when you can like weave jokes into the illustrations and not necessarily the text at the same time. Because, picture books are an experience and they should obviously tell you a story, but then the art should provoke a whole nother different realm and allow you to spend some time looking in there. And I love it when there's like a silly squirrel or like a bird pooping in the background or something hilarious. And that is what I like to do. I feel very comfortable and excited when I get to start putting the funny things into the artwork, and they really happen organically. I don't necessarily like plan for them in the beginning. I have learned enough about my process at this point to understand how that works. So a lot of those jokes are things that come with in the third round of me changing things for the proof. So it's always really fun because I don't know what it's going to be when I start. So it's like, a mystery every time.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I also love being in front of a crowd and telling a joke and everybody gets it and but there's a part of me that also loves when I tell a joke and it just dies.
Oh, yeah.
Except there's one person in the back of the room who just is rolling on the floor and everybody's like, what's so funny? And I'm just like, this is great. This is what I live for.
Been there. Oh yeah. And sometimes, it also depends on like the time and the day. And like, cause sometimes, school is very stressful no matter what age you are. And sometimes they'll just be sitting there like staring at me and I'll say something funny and they just won't get it until like later. But one of the teachers in the back will just like fall off her chair laughing. And I was like, well, ma'am, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Glad you're here.
Yes, you get a gold star.
That's fine. Have you noticed that what kids laugh at has changed? You're much younger than me, and I've been doing this for a long time. I know like the self-deprecating jokes. I would tell this thing, hey, here's a bag and it's empty, just like my head. Now when I tell that joke, there'll be a little kid in the front row going, no, Jedley, your head's not empty. You have a brain.
Yes. Yeah, I think that is part of like, I think it's it's like a reflection on the current society. But there's also a few things I think that will like never not get a laugh. Like anytime you say the word underwear, it's like I mean, it is a guaranteed ha-ha moment. And you know, it is really interesting though, because people's tastes change. And I think that's the thing about like humor in general. And I've talked about this with my agent quite a bit because to me, humor is extremely important and it is to her as well. But humor is so subjective. So it's very rare that you're going to find like, you know, 100 people who all think that the same thing is funny. So eventually you have to just like create things that you think are funny. And then the other people who align with that sense of humor will get it as well.
Yeah. And then hopefully the folks who don't get it and are offended by it aren't all that loud. They'll just be quiet and go home.
Or eventually they're like, you know, driving down the road later and they're like, my gosh, that was funny. I'll laugh at that next time. I'll take a prolonged joke. That's fine.
Yes. You're talking about the humor coming later. So I'm imagining you start up with some ideas for sketches, maybe, you know, kind of sketch out some things. You create the story, then you're going back doing the fine tuning. When you're on that process before, I think you said before the proofs, you're working on the proofs. Mm-hmm. What's it like? Are you looking at the picture and going, oh, this is a great place for a bird to take a poop right over here?
Yep, that's pretty much it. Yes, I have to have at least like one, typically, like not every time, but pretty much at least one funny thing on every page happening. And I love little side characters. Like, I think I should just do a book all about like little side characters doing funny things. Like, hey, look at me, look what I can do. But like, I mean, in Little Red and Big Bad Fred, there are these hilarious bluebirds everywhere. And they're so funny. Like, just even like an expression or like a character getting like flipped upside down. There's a couple places in Little Red and Big Bad Fred where the birds get scared and they're like popping feathers out of themselves and like, it's so great. So yeah, I'll just go in and see like, you know, it's important to have quiet moments in the art. You need time for your eye to rest and your brain to rest and just like soothe it until the next thing. But, you know, if there's like a page where it's nice, but I'm like, man, it just needs like that exclamation point, then I'll be like, funny bird, funny squirrel, hamster, something.
You know, it's funny. My daughter and I, along with others, we just went to a big WWE event at the local arena, and but my daughter and I, because we spent so much time performing together and looking at performance, and while everybody was focused on the two main characters in the ring, we were delighted at all the side characters who were around the ring. And it's amazing how much those characters that we don't even notice half the time bring to a show. And that sounds like what you're doing with your art.
It's exactly what it is. It's like people watching. You know, like if you're on the street and there's someone performing, you know, you watch them, but you also watch everyone around it. That's exactly what it is. Supporting characters, and those often, you know, unseen in the background are hilarious and so darn entertaining. Love it.
I think that's really great advice. How did you know that's what you wanted to do with your art? Was it something, did someone give you that advice? Because I know I see a lot of art from young people, and it's like, do with the story. There's nothing else. It's the story here. How did you know to kind of add those little extra icing, you know, little pieces of icing on the cake?
Yeah, so those, I really learned that because I observed other authors and illustrators doing that in their books. Growing up, I loved reading picture books that were packed full of imagery, little details, because I love to sit there for hours and just like, you know, with just myself and my book just on the floor looking at every single little detail in the book and finding something different every time. So I knew that those were the kind of books that I wanted to make because those are the ones that I love to read the most. And my all-time favorite book that does this so well is The Jolly Christmas Postman. Oh my gosh, that book is a 100% win every time. And now that it's Christmas, that means I get to read it again. I make myself wait. Okay. I have to, it's like a goal. Once I get to December, then I'm allowed to read my Christmas books. And that story and the art in there, there's just so many little things. And honestly, I have gone through that book for 30 plus years with a fine tooth comb. And I still every once in a while find something that I did not notice before. And that's just what I want kids to have an experience like when they read something that I make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, one of the things that we encourage families to do is to take a picture walk through a book before you read the text. Maybe if your kid's reading, maybe you want to put sticky notes over the text. Just take a walk through. I'm thinking, what a wonderful conversation families could have as they're meeting Little Red and then seeing him mistake Big Bad Fred for a dog, and the little kids go, "No, it's a wolf. Don't mess with the wolf." And I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I've been fortunate to get to do a lot of school visits with this story already. And it is so much fun because in the beginning of the book, Little Red thinks that Fred is actually a cat. And then his great grandpa suggests that he's a dog. And so the first time that I say, Fred is the greatest, biggest, fluffiest kitty in the whole wide world. And the kids are like, no, it's a wolf. And I'm like, what? That's not a cat. This is wrong. And we have so much fun. But yes, a lot of that comes from just the pictures, not necessarily even the words yet, when they start to see these things unfold. So yeah, I love a picture walk.
Yeah. As you're creating the text, as you're creating the images and adding the icing, are you thinking about reading this to kids? Is that something that's front of your mind?
Yes, it absolutely is. I always read my stories aloud before I even consider sharing them with anybody. I'm part of a lot of critique groups with a lot of great critique partners, but even before I share them in critique group, I will read them aloud to nobody, to my mom, to my husband, to my nieces, somebody, because I need to make sure that it's not like dragging, because I never want it to be boring. Mm-hmm. And so I always try to test them out first, because when you're just looking at it on the screen or on paper and reading it to yourself, it's amazing how different that experience is when you're so focused and centered on it here versus, reading it aloud out here. So yes, I always do a practice read aloud so that I can find out sticking points, any lulls, and also for me, because for me, the comedic timing is extremely important. So if I'm reading it aloud, I can see where a joke might not fit. I have to bring it in earlier or save it for later. So yes, read aloud is always a good idea.
Yeah. And as an author-illustrator, one of the questions that I oftentimes will ask an author is it hard for you to remember to let the illustrator tell part of your story? I guess that's not an issue for you. You're just, I can't figure out the words. Forget it. I'll just draw it.
Yeah, sometimes I have the opposite problem where I'll try to put too much into the art and not let the words do enough. And that's something that, everybody has one thing that they always struggle with in their process. And that's definitely mine. Is I am such a huge fan and have so much respect for people who make wordless picture books. Mm. I think that would be so fun to try someday. I would absolutely love that opportunity to make a wordless picture book, because I feel like I try to make all of mine wordless picture books, but then I'm constantly checking myself, okay, what's the word? What are the words going to say? And then I kind of ping pong back and forth between the words and the pictures as I progress. So yes, I definitely have that opposite. I still have issues, but the opposite.
Yeah. Most of the wordless picture books I've seen have been kind of poignant, they're kind of telling a story that's kind of going to tear at your heartstrings.
Yes.
Is that something that you think you want to challenge yourself to do, or do you want to just do a hilarious wordless picture book?
I would be open to both. I am such a motivated creator that I would love the opportunity to create in any genre, in any type of format, and I would love a challenge to create something like quieter. But I would also love the challenge of making a humorous wordless picture book, because you're right, most of them are. I don't know that it's necessarily easier to show a poignant, more like, tugging at your heartstrings story visually. I think it just lends itself to that very well. Because if the story is quieter and you're just looking at it, you're quieter. So I think that might have something to do with why that works so well. So yeah, I would certainly be open to anything and everything. Yeah.
Earlier in the show, I teased that we're going to talk about you being a grand marshal, so we should get down to it. And in just a couple of days, you're going to be the grand marshal of a huge parade. Tell us all about it.
So I am from the town called Terra Alta in northern West Virginia, and it is a small town full of so many wonderful, nice people. My former teachers in elementary school, middle school, and high school live there. Everyone who goes to my church lives there, my parents, friends. And I grew up there and lived there for a very, very long time. And they always have a Christmas parade downtown and on our little main street. Now, granted, this is a really small town, okay? Like, we don't have any stoplights. We did get a Family Dollar recently, which is very exciting. And there is so much love in this community, and it's just good people. And they are super supportive of me. The local school, the local library rocks. They are amazing. And the librarian had asked me if I would like to be in the parade, because I was going up to do a winter Christmas story time. And I was like, yes, I would like to be in the parade. And one of the other librarians is really involved in the town hall business. And she's like, well, why don't you Grand Marshal, and you can carry the banner with me and you get to be out front. And so this will be my third year in a row doing it. Awesome. And so I get to lead everybody, and there's bands and floats, and it's so sweet. So I get to march through town carrying my banner, and I get to wave at everybody. And afterwards, the parade ends at the community building, where everyone goes inside and has hot chocolate and cookies and visits. And it's absolutely quintessentially perfect.
Someday when I'm driving to do a show somewhere and I'm driving through West Virginia, am I going to see a little plaque on the side of the interstate that Ashley lived here?
Let's hope, my friend. Let's hope someday. That is also, I have a very long list of goals. Yes.
What's next for you? We're going to retell another fairy tale or something else?
I have something amazing coming up. I am launching my first ever early graphic novel series in March. Oh, yes, I'm so excited. It is called Squirrel-Lock Holmes, and I am so pumped because it is a mystery series, and Squirrel-Lock is a girl, so it's a girl lead, and they get into all these little situations, and they have to solve these little mysteries around the forest. And I just finished working on the second one. So the first one will be out on March 3rd, and then the second one will be out next fall.
Awesome. Well, let's have you back sometime. March is my birthday, so let's have you back in March to celebrate this new book. And in the meantime, tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Little Red and Big Bad Fred and find out more about you.
Yes, you can go to my website that is ashleybelote.com. And Little Red and Big Bad Fred was published by Penguin Random House, so you can also find out more about this book and on their website or online anywhere books are sold.
We've had a really fun time speaking to our buddy. She's the author and illustrator of Little Red and Big Bad Fred. Our guest has been Ashley Belote. Ashley, thanks so much for being back on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Hey, I want to let you know that this episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by Chicken Coop Chaos by Nancy Tavares. Are you ready for some barnyard fun your kids will absolutely adore? Then you've got to check out Nancy Tavares' delightful books, Chicken Coop Chaos and Chicken Coop Chaos Christmas. In the original Chicken Coop Chaos, we meet Pearl, a hen who loves peace, order, and a tidy little hen house. But when Window the Rooster barges in and decides he's not leaving, Pearl has to hatch a clever plan to take back her space. And let's just say things get hilariously chaotic. And just in time for the holidays, Chicken Coop Chaos Christmas brings even more laughs, heart, and festive feathered fun. These books are perfect for young readers, classrooms, and family read-aloud time. So flap on over to your favorite bookstore or online retailer and grab your copies of Chicken Coop Chaos and Chicken Coop Chaos Christmas today. Your kids will be clucking with joy. This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by Princess Naomi Helps a Unicorn, a dance-it-out creative movement story for young movers. Unicorns and horses and snakes, oh my! Interactive movement wrapped up in a charming story of sibling angst, anger management, compassion, and triumph. Fed up with her annoying sister, Naomi storms out of the castle, only to discover a unicorn in need of help. With a sense of purpose, she quickly forgets her anger. Princess Naomi is just one of the many wonderful books you can find at onceuponadance.com. A mother and daughter duo with a passion for dance and storytelling. They strive to share joyful movement, honor the beauty and discipline of ballet, and foster freedom of expression. Check it out today, onceuponadance.com. Join us right now from New York City. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new picture book. It's called Meet the Smushkins. Please welcome to the show New York Times best-selling author Claudia Rueda. Claudia, how are you?
Hi, Jed. I'm doing great. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm looking into Claudia's space, and she has this beautiful picture right over her shoulder and it's just lovely colors. Is that something that you created?
It is from Colombia. There's this printing studio in a city called Cali, and they've been doing these printings in letterpress, which is a very old traditional way of printing, and now they are like vintage collectible. It is called La Linterna, and it's so beautiful. And this is about Carnival, and I like the idea of the Carnival, which is the moment when a week when everybody can do whatever they want. It's like the week of freedom, but they also wear masks, which is very interesting as well. Like it reveals but hides your celebration, and I loved it. So I really want to have something from there because it reminds me of that part of the country which I love, and the colors are so beautiful.
That's one of the things that I love about Latin countries. I've had an opportunity to tour through Central America. My beautiful wife is, the audience knows, is originally from Puerto Rico, and that they embrace color so much is something I love.
Yeah, it's probably related with the tropics because we have so much color in our landscape. And of course there are colors in the summer here, but there's so much richness because of the diversity. I mean, we have the most diverse number of bird species and butterflies and hummingbirds. So it's very colorful all year. So probably comes from there.
Yeah. You mentioned butterflies. When I was in Costa Rica, we were walking through the rainforest, and this ginormous blue butterfly just came down and landed on my shoulder, and my wife was able to take a picture of it, and it was blue and it was beautiful, and I just happened to have a blue raincoat on, and my wife is like going, "Oh, it brings out your blue eyes," and so. But I just love being in those environments where you're surrounded by life. You're surrounded by life.
Yeah, it's so joyful and playful and beautiful. Yes, it's very different. But we like both. I mean, there's also there are also very beautiful things in the snow and the ocean from the north. It's like the combination of both things what I like. I like combining things.
So let's talk about Meet the Smushkins. Who are the Smushkins?
Oh, yes. Okay, so this is like these unusual creatures because they are a creation of myself. I don't know why. I kind of know why, but I was during lockdown. I became very playful. It reminded me of I was with my daughters. They were at college at that time, and we got together and we stayed there for a year together, and we will play, we will dance and sing while we were cleaning the house, while we were cooking. We would grow vegetables. It was like going back to this life that reminded me so much of childhood. Because the Smushkins are a celebration of childhood, about being playful, about loving discovery, about opening to imagination and finding things and being together without those specific purposes that we have and living in our minds that we do as adults, and that's what it is. So I keep those characters for a while because I didn't know what to do with them, and my daughter saw them and say, "Okay, Mom, you have to do something with those characters. You have to create a story for them." And when I was working with my agent, I started to create concept books first because I love concept books for small kids. I love the idea of creating something joyful and playful and not just the basic that the apple and just those visual dictionaries, but I really want to create something playful and funny. I love humor. I love humor. I think kids, it's so rich for kids to have access to humor because it gives them access to different layers of meaning, and they begin to understand that what you're saying, there's something else from what you're saying, and find things that are funny. I love when they laugh. So I want them to be these kind of small children, but creatures who are not humans, but not animals. And they came out, and they in the first book, they're going to look for a house. So the book starts like a list of the things they think it's good to have in a house. But it's not like one bedroom washer and dryer, as we would say with adults. But they want empty spaces. They want a window where the light comes in and they can play with the light and the shadows. They want to have a playground. They want to have an apple tree because they love apples, and climb the tree and cook an apple pie and go and have ice cream and playing at the bathtub. So that's what they do, and that's the kind of house that they have. And then they're going to have other stories, and they are 4 main characters, and we have many more that I have created, and I'm also created more stories from them.
Wonderful. So this is going to be a series.
This is going to be a series for small kids. At the beginning, we're going to have, we already have 5 books coming with Candlewick Press, and I'm already writing some stories for them. So once you get to know them, it is a process. It develops. You see them, you create them visually, but it takes time for you to know their personalities and develop the stories for them, and they will react to the situations in a different way according to what kind of personalities they have. So now it's been a lot of fun. I already created 4 more stories for them.
Wonderful. I think a lot of people who aren't in the business of creating might sit back and hear you when you're saying, "Oh, I have to get to know their personalities." They might be sitting back and saying, "Claudia, what do you mean? You're creating how do you get to know their personalities? It's coming from you. But I kind of understand it. It's not something you just sit down and say, well, the red one is this. It's you tell the process of how you create and how you get to know these personalities.
Yeah. This is an idea that has developed in my mind and with my experience about what the creative process is. We have the idea, probably from the movies, I don't know, that the artist is this person who is so talented, so genius, that comes with the ideas and puts them on the paper. But there is something that comes from your subconscious. You don't know very much what is going to come out. Even writers of novels say that. Like they have an idea, they start writing, and the situation starts to come because your experience, your memories, but also something that you are not aware of, that's inside your mind, starts to reveal. And probably many of those things come from childhood. That's why it's so wonderful to do art, because you still have some of your childhood memories inside, and especially when you draw. When you draw, there is this is a special connection. You really don't know how is it that your ideas come out on the paper. Like I love to do like free when I'm not working, and that's why playing is so good for children, because they don't have limits. They don't plan before it comes out. That's what I do when I'm playful with my drawings, and that happened with the Smushkins. I was playful. I was trying a new tool, and I was drawing, and they came out. Of course, it's an accumulation of everything you've seen, everything you read, everything you live, but it's not totally your rational mind, the one that puts everything together. And when you're creating, more ideas come. It's like I say it in a way that it might sound a little bit esoteric, but when you're working, the muses come. That this person is working, so I'm gonna bring them our ideas, and it's kind of like that. It's a mystery,
Yeah,
but it's real, and it's not just like speculation. It really happens.
Mm-hmm. No, I know. I performed educational magic shows at schools for 35 years, and there are many days when I would just go in, and as you said, the muse would come, and I would just start riffing and improvising on stage. And there's even this one point I've told the story on the podcast. My daughter, when she was younger, she would come out and tour with me and be on stage with me, and we had our couple of little routines. But there was one night in the middle of one of those routines, I just started going off and improvising, and she's whispering to me like, "Bobby, what are you doing? This isn't in the script." I go, "Just trust me." And she was enough of a pro that she trusted me, and it's really hard to describe how much joy it is when that's happening.
Yeah, it feels really good, and I'm so glad that it's happening to you in a totally different art form. Mm-hmm. It feels you're like in the zone, and it flows.
Yep. And you have I don't know about you, but there have been times when I've been preparing to go on stage and really don't have anything, but I'm excited. I know I'm going to go on stage. I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I just have complete confidence that when I open my mouth, something intelligent or funny is going to come out, and I'm never let down. Yeah.
Of course, you have to be prepared in a way that probably you have a lot of experience, and that's why you can do that. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Because it's not like improvising without knowing anything. It's right. That you've been practicing for so long that you are able to do that in what Asian people call like the illusion of spontaneity, which in a way is an educated mind or an educated person, an educated artist who has trained so much that it comes easily. It's like with drawing. If I want to draw an animal, I have to learn how to draw it in order to be spontaneous and have freedom to create a character out of that animal. If I want to create a character that is a cat, I first have to learn how to draw the cat. Mm-hmm. And then I will have the freedom to create a character out of the cat. But you have to learn how to do it first, like realistically. Uh-huh. And then you create your own.
Uh-huh. You were saying that when you created the Smushkins, you were kind of playing. What does playing with your art look like? Are you sitting back in a chair with your feet up and just kind of doodling, or is there something else going on?
Yeah, it is like when children play, that they don't play with a purpose. Like I was not drawing for a specific book or because somebody asked me to do a specific thing, but I was just enjoying, like when you go for a walk and you just look at what you find and you are not thinking about anything else, not in a phone call, not worry about anything else, but you go for a walk and you enjoy what you have, what you're seeing. You enjoy the fall leaves, you enjoy the water, the raindrops, and that's what kids do all the time. They don't have a purpose. The only purpose is to play and rehearse for life when they grow up. So that was the kind of drawing that I was doing, and I was with my pencil and not thinking, not allowing my mind to decide what to come out from there. I was just trying and error, like doing things and don't be too worried about the result. That's very important. Don't have it in your mind what you want. Just allowing your hand to show you what you're drawing. So it's free drawing. It is the surrealists used to call it something like that, like free drawing, that they would do like a spot and they would let the line go and find shapes inside that spot of ink, and they will find things and they will create things. It was totally freedom. And that's when I believe that's when your subconscious speaks.
Yeah.
Not your rational, very practical mind that grows very much when you're an adult, too much. Because you have to survive. But kids do not. They have adults to take care of them, so they can speculate. They can discover without a purpose. So that's pre-drawing.
It's funny you mentioned that kids can be carefree. I have a niece who's about ready to finish and graduate from university, and she sent me a video last night, and she said, adulting is really hard. I don't like all this responsibility that I have.
It is, and it's difficult because there's so much change between everything is available to you. Somebody's taking care of you, and you can do and explore as you want. But that's the reason why we are a developed species, because our childhood is long. Otherwise, it wouldn't be that way, because we are able to imagine, to create, to invent during all these childhood years without having to care about hunting the buffalo or surviving with the cold weather, because we can speculate. But yes, we grow up, and the teenage years are very difficult because it's a terrible transition. It's a very difficult transition. But well, I am very nostalgic about the childhood of my daughters are already grown-ups, and I'm very nostalgic about their children when they were kids, because they change a lot, but it's life, and that's how it works. And then they have kids, and then that's how life evolves. Yeah.
You've written books that have been translated into multiple different languages, and I think I'm looking on your website. I think you've written books that were originally, like the first draft is in Spanish. Am I right about that?
I write both in English and Spanish. Some books I write for the Mexican, Spanish, and Latin American audience environment, and I also write in English for the US. Yeah. So I write in both languages.
Yeah. When you're writing, and we've had some conversations with publishers of books for the Latin audiences. How different are those audiences, and how different are the books that are written, for example, for kids who are growing up in Mexico or Colombia, and books that are written specifically for them, as opposed to books that are written for kids who are growing up in Boston and New York City?
Wow, that's a very interesting question, and it's important that you ask it, because not too many people ask about that, but that's very interesting. I would say that they are very different. We have a big influence from the European tradition of picture books. Actually, most of the picture books that first came to Latin America to educate the publishers and the culture were coming from Spain, because Spain translates all books created in Europe to Spanish. Mm-hmm. So it's a tradition that is very influenced by the European market. But also there are books that nowadays, like for the last 25 years, there's a big tradition of original books created in Latin America. I would say that a lot of the difference is the relation with the environment, maybe. It's really hard because there are many books, and many books are very different. Right. But I would say that in the US, it is the main character, the one who solves the problem. And it's more focused on the main character being the maker of the transformation and the story. So it has the circumstance in her or his hands. Mm. And whereas in Latin America, and maybe in some places from Europe, I would say maybe Spain and France, and more things happen to this character. So it is a different relationship with everything, with the story. But that's, I mean, there are many different ones.
Sure, yeah.
So and there's a lot of relationship with nature, of course, because it's all around and it's very powerful. There are books about social problems because there is, of course, poverty and war and conflict. So there are also those themes are also included in books. And there's also a lot of experimentation as well, but they are very colorful. We were talking about colors; they are very colorful. Mm-hmm. But it's hard because there are many books in the U.S. and they are very diverse, and also there are many books and that now are created in Latin America. So not too much about our own traditions. It's mostly about our contemporary situation. Okay. So now they are doing history books and biographies, but not too much into the traditional culture. Mm-hmm. I would say that we are missing that, and we should do more about that. Yeah. But there are history about the official history. We need to explore more into not the big names, but the small names. I would love to see more. But it's still a small industry, but very powerful and very interesting.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I was blown away by, I attended the International Children's Book Festival in Bologna, Italy, not this year, but last year. And the children's book industry is huge.
It's overwhelming to go to the Bologna Book Fair. There are so many beautiful books, so many illustrators around, so many publishing houses. It's so big. Yes, yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's a little bit hopeful or depressing for you as an artist to go there, because you say, oh my goodness, there's so many talent. There's so much talent. It's so hard to survive in this industry. But it's also very inspiring.
What was funny was I could point at someone and say, that's an aspiring artist. Just by the I don't know if it was the hope in their eyes, or of course if they were carrying around art supplies, and you could figure it out. But there were just so many people there who were aspiring artists, and it was a really fun environment.
It's a beautiful book fair, and only for children's books, which is great.
Yes.
And there are so many, and it's a great opportunity for us as authors to sell our books to other languages. Mm-hmm. That's the place where it happens, along with Frankfurt. And I love that. I think it's so beautiful when they want to read, when you know that kids are reading your books in Korea or Turkey or France or so many places. It's magical.
Yeah, that's wonderful. We should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Meet the Smushkins and find out all about all of the books that you've created and illustrated.
Sure, you can go to smushkins.com, or you can go to my Instagram account, Claudia Rueda, or my website, claudiarueda.com. So you find information about all that, the books that are coming, school visits, more information about the book itself. So you're welcome to visit.
We've had a great time speaking to the author and illustrator of Meet the Smushkins. Our guest has been Claudia Rueda. Claudia, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you, Jed. It was a pleasure.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. In the meantime, if this episode made you smile or gave you something to think about, please consider leaving a 5-star review, sending the link to the show to someone you love, and of course, subscribe to the show wherever you find your favorite shows. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our wonderful guest, Ashley Belote. Please be sure to check out Little Red and Big Bad Fred. Also want to thank Claudia Rueda. Please be sure to check out Meet the Smushkins. I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better, more caring and loving place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.